Hello, and welcome to another wonderful episode of Submitted for Your Approval, the card review show for Collective, the community-created card game where you make the cards. We are in week 24 of season 2, the season that never ends. I am joined, as always, by my faithful co-host, Grief.
Howdy, folks.
And my loyal panelist, Empty Folder.
Hello, everyone.
And let's just jump straight into it with Private Security Guard. Private Security Guard is a 3-drop neutral 3/3 human from Tutela with summon. This gets, when this card is banished, create a copy of this in play. And it's actually from Spiny Nerd. I didn't catch that at first, so congrats, Spiny Nerd, for getting another card in. I know you're fairly new. Is this Spiny Nerd's first? Anyways, so this synergizes really interestingly with the Underlabs cards from Tutela. And I like how they did throw the Underlabs into the flavor text. Bonk was throwing a cosmetic to get the flavor text switched around.
Yep.
I really like this one personally.
It's way too serious for the realm, and it doesn't actually fit its flavor.
I don't know. Okay. But yeah, so this synergizes specifically with their whole replacing effects, because when you throw a replacement effect down on Private Security Guard, it just comes back again, at least once. So I think we have basically all of the Tutela replacement effects are gone, right? I can't think of any.
For the most part.
What?
For the most part, I think we still have one.
One, maybe?
Do we? Which one? Is it the one drop?
I think it is.
Okay, so yeah, we could get some interesting stuff with this if we decide to print more of those specs in the future, which I believe we will. Or, of course, you could do this with some legacy support. So I'll let Grease start on this one. What do you think?
I don't actually know. Considering that most of our banished tools this would actually synergize with is the 3-drop or 2-drop from Aesthetica, that's as the active Blinker unit. And I think then there's the muffin or cupcake.
Yeah.
The blink stuff.
Oh, that's a neat synergy with Neon Cupcake. On turn 4, you can get 2/3/3s out.
So that's actually the only thing that comes to mind. It's a cute card. I think it can fit into Blink Matters deck when it actually comes around. But for now, it will be basically just a potential Brewer's Delight, as long as we don't really have many tools supported post-rotation.
Yeah. What do you think, Empty?
Yeah, I mean, I think like this effect is really strange and really interesting. Like I never would have thought about doing banish synergy in this sort of way with this like weird summon thing. Like Grief said, for bounce and those sort of evolve effects that Tutela is known for, this synergizes with them. But of course, both of those decks are losing quite a few cards in rotation when this gets in. So once they're built back up, or I guess if they're built back up, this may see some play. Until then, it's going to have a hard time finding a home.
Yeah. It's so sad that we had to wait till this close to rotation to finally get some good anti-Geschlorp tech, right? It is what it is.
It's not even that great because it still comes in exhausted.
Yeah.
If it like readied itself or readied the token, that might be okay.
Okay, so Thoughtflux is a 5-drop mind action from nowhere in particular, possibly to be updated to Illusion Agetica. Withdraw 2 cards, reduce the cost of actions in your hand by 1. Oh boy, this is fun. And it's a Spikebird design. I don't feel very surprised. With a gorgeous art. I think this is honestly some of his best. So yeah, Illusion Agetica, Pollock's Dream, the Abstract Realm, and this is an action reduction effect, which people have been very wary about before because combo tech. Should we be scared of this as combo tech? I'm actually want to have Grief talk first on this one because I want to know why he picked it.
It's just bigger, fairer Rare Material. Rare Material was a combo deck that basically could just get out of hand due to the fact that every card you drew that turn was reduced by the cost of 2
Yeah,
or 1, I don't remember.
I think it was 2.
And so you could actually chain multiple units and actions into each other, and it basically just got out of hand due to Whims of Fate. This costs 5, only reduces actions by 1, and yeah, it draws you 2 cards, but then again, you really have to go hard into actions or slash action cost reduction to benefit from off of it. So it will see play and maybe action spam each decks, but these probably are better tools to draw into cards. Post rotation, it is a little bit different, but yeah, overall, it's a fine card, but not overbearing. And it will take a pretty long while till it would.
I do agree with your assessment that this is like a fair rare materials. I could see this possibly being ran in Ush because when you just want to build up your hand size before you drop your Ush, and if you do draw or if you do have this in hand when Ush comes out, you don't feel really bad about drawing 2 more cards. It's a decent effect. And the other people have been working up Mind Arcanist. Notice this doesn't have a cost floor. So people have been working up some Mind Arcanist designs this week that are when you play an action, and we have the Mind Arcanist Jam that I think also had 1 or 2 of those. A lot of those didn't get in though. And so this could synergize with the growing Mind Arcanist thing. Empty, what do you think of this design?
Yeah, I think the problem with running this in like a Mind Arcanist deck is you have to be so heavy on actions for this to actually be worth it. Like the only deck I really see this being run in is like full on action spam where you hardly run any units. And like maybe like the ones you do are like Elder Freshman that just draw you more actions.
Yeah.
And because of that, like, as you know, I'm not really the biggest fan of action spam, so I'm not that sold on the card, but I think you'll see play in that deck.
Yeah. Okay. And the Wosk Acolyte is a 4-drop strength 4/4 wax golem from Lux with rebound, and whenever you play a unit with rebound, draw a card. Rebound tribal, folks. This is interesting. And it's turning card advantage into more card advantage. This is potentially pretty crazy. Tell me about why you picked this card, Empty.
It's really weird to have like rebound tribal, especially when the benefit for playing the rebound tribal is like
already
card advantage, which is already what rebound is getting you.
Yeah.
Like this does also draw a card off itself because it's not another. So assuming like when you play this, it has rebound, so you're gonna get a card. So it's never really like you're never gonna go down in card advantage playing this.
Isn't it a passive? Isn't it a trigger?
Yeah, the passive doesn't take effect till it's in play.
Yeah.
Or the trigger.
Doesn't? I always get confused with that. So it doesn't trigger off itself?
No.
Yeah, we don't work like it does in Magic. The effect only exists once the card hits the ground.
Yeah, so okay, in that case, like there's a bit more risk to playing this, I guess, since like a 4-mana 4/4 is pretty bad, especially if you're not getting cards from it.
Yeah,
like you really have to not have this removed and actually play another rebound card.
I mean, it itself is still a 0 though, because it has rebound itself.
Yeah,
it's still a CA 0. The thing I think is maybe the issue with this is rebound is not really it's kind of spread out. So is the best rebound matters deck a Kyung Mi deck or what?
Right now, yeah. If frogs were still like a standard deck, like almost all of those have rebound, so you could run that.
Strength frogs, yeah.
Yeah. There's that weird narrator like frog combo deck that some people are running. So and you could run that in this.
Yeah.
Or run this in that. Yeah.
Because that'll also get you your Wosk, if that's the only rebound unit you're running from Lux. Grief, what do you think of this?
There was this sculptor design that Popka was pushing for. I don't know if it got into game. I don't think so. That basically said, okay, if you have at least what 6 or 6 or 8 cards that were off initiative from your hero, they all gain rebound. That would
15 or
actually help
more.
that deck.
Yeah.
15 or more. Okay. That would help that deck. On the other hand, yeah, this rebound synergy thing already existed, but in green and only on a bomber, which basically just cared about units. This opens you up for more interaction because it doesn't it doesn't really rely on them actually sticking on the board.
Yeah. So yeah, this could be potentially interesting, and I wouldn't mind seeing designs like this in the future, maybe building up a mini archetype, though I can't tell you what it would look like affinity-wise, whether it be a Kyung Mi thing or not.
Man, I really wanted to say another. It messes with my head so much.
And it says whenever, which is not the
Yeah.
standard, so those letters could be reallocated. Okay. The Hydraxi Battlesuite is a 4-drop strength 4/2 alien vehicle equipment from DeBello with Overrun, Agile, and Summon merged with an ally unit. Okay, now this, I really like this. I think Cannibals was being really clever. This is reinforcing the idea of DeBello aliens being keyword based. It just weirds me out because it's a backwards vehicle. It's like, I feel like because this is such a big thing, it should merge the other thing with it, right? So that when it dies, you have an ejector seat and get back the dude. But I guess this also makes sense. This lines it more up with like the armor, or kind of like the armor thing, but a little bit different. Overrun, Agile, nice little stat block, and it comes back and becomes another little overrunner. What do we think of this one? I'll let you start, Grief.
Very basic merch design.
Yeah.
Don't really care much about it. Okay, the only thing that's for me personally worth on the card is the equipment tribe, and that's it. Because it's only quote unquote only agile overrun for 4 mana. That sure it gives you +4/+2. But
it's a nice beefy stat, and you got to bear in mind you get twice the value out of the thing because you also get the robot back when that happens. So I don't know. I think this is interesting. I do think it's a little interesting that, or like it's got a 4. The stat line's a little interesting. I feel like that could have been flipped and it still would have made sense in my mind, and it would have enabled Hiku a bit better. But I guess people don't want it to enable Hiku a bit better, and so that kind of makes sense. Empty, what do you think of this?
I mean, yeah, it's really not a Hiku card. There's more efficient ways in Hiku to get these keywords.
Yeah.
Like Grief said, I mostly see this seeing play in Spirit Equipment decks.
Yeah.
Because you desperately need Overrun in those decks. You end up with like these 20 attack units or something ridiculous, and then you just can't get them through. And like the upside of if your opponent removes whatever you attach this to, you can still get in that turn for damage is really nice. There's also like some really weird plays you can do late game where like if your opponent taps out and spends all their mana, you can play something and then immediately put this on there and get in for like lethal damage, which I think is really neat. Yeah. I just think it's like quite an interesting and solid card for being so simple.
Yeah.
Good merch design.
I definitely agree. It's just flavor-wise, it seems weird that you are prying when you kill it, you are prying the rider out of the seat of the mech and not blowing up the mech.
The flavor would be a bit better if the merch was the other way around, but I don't think it's that big of a deal.
I don't either. It just bugs. I think that way, so it just bugs me. But I still wholly endorse this design. Okay, let's talk about the cute thingies. Dupli-Cat is a 5-drop neutral 3/3 cat from nowhere in particular with 2 heads and is so cute. This is from Sporium Quorum and Amnex. So a new player and a new artist who is, I think they maybe like I can't remember. But anyways, they both joined together. Leap, Agile, and Summon transform all of your units in play into copies of this. So this is a really, really fun token spam card. It's not actually doing too hot. It's sitting at 3. And I think I might be to blame there because Belfry of the Void just got in. And so with Belfry of the Void, this is potentially insane.
Yes, but the thing is, you have to play this
in one particular order. You'd have to drop this.
Yeah.
And Belfry, yeah.
And that's really the problem.
Yeah.
Because playing this is a really tall order because it's 5 mana, which I think is too much for a card like this.
Yeah, I do think it's a little bit overcosted because you have to be running a bunch of weak stuff to really get.
You have to be running really weak stuff for this to actually be buffing your board, and you're basically silencing all your units to get 3/3 leaps with agile, which isn't that great of a unit to begin with.
Yeah.
Especially like there's other good options like one of the recent ones that got in, Heart of Magmana. That's really good for token decks because it's one cost cheaper. Well, it does buff your opponent's stuff. Like your board is just going to be bigger, so you get to keep your text.
Yeah.
I think it just could have been 4 mana.
4 mana, or do you think maybe a stat bump would have fixed it?
That too.
Yeah, I do feel weird seeing a cat that's that big because, like, I guess Acoustic Kitty is oddly tanky HP wise, but
Yeah.
I just can't get. You got to look at that face and be like, oh man, that face. But apparently, that face was not enough to convince other people to vote for it. That face alone convinced me. Grief, what do you think of this?
It's a pretty terrible unit.
Yeah.
With a pretty terrible effect. With an atrocious stat line. Do I have to say more?
Well, let's talk about. It's still an interesting effect, and the question is, how do we fix it?
It's not really interesting considering we have a board wipe-esque effect that gives you basically a better version of this, because it also reduces the power level on the board, on the opponent's board if you build around it, because that's basically the thing. If you're just after a duplicate effect with Dupli-Cat, I mean, yeah, sure, go for it. But with way better go white supports, and even the tribal heroes provided, Lesser of sure, due to his bug, is extremely overbearing, and yeah, vampires basically have only one deck in terms of Baldwin, but even they do what this card wants to support better on their own.
Oh yeah, you're right. If I really wanted to run this as like a big epic thing, then what I do is run Witch's Revenge, and then run Belfry, and
I mean,
and then run plants, pockets of plants or something.
The thing is, why would you run Belfry for such kind of deck? Because you already have better tribal supporters.
Oh yeah. Well, Thorn Regent's rotating out.
Yeah.
So it slots in for your Thorn Regent.
It depends.
Yeah.
Well, this card has no home.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea, I think, and I think Empty thinks as well. But I do agree with you that there are some executional issues, and but I really do like the art though, and I really like the idea. It's just not quite there. The Aggressive Haruspex is a 1-drop strength 1/1 Lizabo from Unguia with Life Bond, and when your opponent plays an action, give your lowest attack unit +1/+1. So I get bugged a little bit by this isn't a unique unit. This might be, you might have 2 units with the same attack, so it should say random or whatever rule it uses for a tiebreaker that's unambiguous. I am excited about this because this is another Face Spitter card. So the Face Spitter team, by the way, since last week, has picked up 2 members. It's Apra, Spikebird, and myself, and we are working on adding new features to the bot and stuff like that, and so it's inspiring these new designs, and I thought it was really cool. And I really, really liked this work from Space Turtle, both in terms of art and design, with the Lizabo crushing a heart in his hand. But this is a decent...
Ich bin gerade mitten im Vortrag.
So this is a decent Lizabo 1-drop, I think. But, I mean, it's almost hurt by the tribe because, of course, the first thought is, oh, Vamps. But no, we need to pull away from Vamps and start developing some other tribes a bit. Empty, what do you think?
I mean, it is fairly valuable for Lazabo to have like one life bond unit just so they don't get like burned out.
Mhm.
Like this is basically just if action spam is good in the meta, this is the counter card that you run in your Lazabo decks. A lot of other decks just don't run enough actions,
Mhm.
and with stuff like Lost Huntsman, and there's all these pings floating around. Uh, this is just going to die to one of those unless you're playing against action spam. In which case, if your opponent tries to use their ping on this, it buffs itself most of the time,
Yeah.
and it survives. I do like that it's not another card that has like a million choose windows.
Yeah.
I'm hoping we can go more towards these lowest attack sort of cards.
Yeah, I just wish it had a random or a clear tiebreaker there. Because it takes a while for people to like pick up what those patterns are. Grief, what do you think of this?
It's Wizard Slayer's smaller little brother that helps you basically put stats on warded units or even in the equipment deck when you are trying to avoid specific target removal. Also, this could actually find a home in Sviatlo Lux crossover designs due to the fact that they want to buff each other, and you can basically manipulate where the stat point is actually, where the stats go actually when your opponent tries to interact with your board. So it provides provides a plethora of good play patterns, but overall it remains to be seen how well this could actually impact the metagame post-rotation.
Yeah, it's sad there's no draw log type effects in strength, because bogging your opponent's hand down with a bunch of actions they have to play would be a really, really great way to use this as a payoff.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, draw logs in general are kind of on their way out.
Yeah.
Thought Suppressors at least stays in.
Yeah.
Yes.
One of the
But
best.
I mean, this isn't strength, so you could potentially buff this guy, or do something cool with it. Okay, and the last one I wanted to talk about was the Watcher of the Fields. Watcher of the Fields is a 3-drop spirit, 3/4 spirit, from Spirit Noctis, which doesn't exist, so this is all just in the tribe line technically. Ambush, when this is played, deal 1 damage to a creature and 1 damage to a player. So Bacon Shark is a new player. I wanted to workshop this a little bit because I thought that there were some interesting parts of this design to talk about and some parts where this is just meh. First of all, we use Spectre for the tribe, and you don't get to make a realm until after you get 1 card in. We got to at least say that. Grief, what do you think of this design?
Ambush summon when this is played, deal 1 damage to a creature and 1 damage to a player.
So it's deal 1 to a unit and 1 damage to a player.
It's actually completely fine.
Yeah.
Just needs a rewording, and that's basically it. Ambush is maybe worth 0.5 to 1.5 points of stats, depending on the unit and where it's used. And basically the split damage effect that you could consider being sploosh, but you can also target your own stuff and your face, which then again is 2 layers of choose windows, which is also kind of meh, but on the other hand, it's okay. This card is, as I said, besides the wording, completely fine.
Yeah, this is a Magic-esque wording. Really, it could just be splash, like you said. I don't see why it's this. We try to cut down on the number of choose units when possible. But I don't know. I think there's the beginnings of a solid design here. To Bacon Shark, wherever you are, I hope you go join us on the Discord. We would be glad to help workshop this design with you. MD, do you have any closing notes on this?
Yeah, I agree with Grief. I think it's very close. I think if you just reworded it a little bit so that it's more in line with collective wording instead of magic, and then you can probably bump it down to a common.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it would be a perfectly fine design.
Yeah, and commons get in easier, so that would be another way to help this. It's really not doing hot, and really, there's all the pieces are there. It's just a matter of polishing it just a little bit. and then maybe a resub. And there's plenty of realms that would just love to have this. I don't see why this had to be a new one. Okay, the Blasting Wand is a 1-drop mind action from Seal of Elementary with deal 2 damage to a unit and give it can't block until end of turn. I did get attracted to this creator line here with the School of Archipelago project, which is trying to expand Seal of Elementary to have like more stuff in it than the one. It's like the 5 square or the 1 acre surrounding one particular tower, right? Is where most of the stuff supposedly goes on. Or I don't really know too much about Seal lore, so I probably shouldn't talk. So this is, what does Slime Blast do? Does
2
anyone know?
damage and exhaust.
2 damage and exhaust for how much?
It's a 2-mana 2/2, and the Slime Blast costs 1.
Okay. So this is just like Slime Blast, but a little worse.
That's slightly worse.
But slightly worse. So Grief, why did you pick this?
Slime Blast, by the way, I think is only a token.
Yeah.
It is.
But I mean, we could have
So-
just updated Slime Blast and got a better card. So without having
I
to
think
spend
this is
a
fine.
full slot.
This is completely fine, though. I don't really know what the gripe is. with that card.
I agree
So,
with you. It's just I don't.
Even if we updated Slime Blast together with this card in the game, it would be completely fine because we could actually need more diversity.
Yeah. Well, and they
even-
actually do have slightly differing effects. So this gives can't
Exactly.
block. Oh, this only gives can't block until end of turn.
Yes.
But yeah, this could afford to maybe give can't block permanently. I don't know.
It's a completely fine comment, to be honest. And the voting count is middling, I think, 8 to 9 votes. So it's actually okay on the
It's doing
subreddit.
okay. Yeah.
In-game votes could be a bit different, but on your hand, this is just a good utility card for action spam going forward. Even in more unit-centric Arcanist decks, this is a good way to get damage through with your units. Oh yeah, there's an ambusher or a blocker that I really need to get rid of because it goes active anyways, which Slime Blast cannot deal with, by the way, because ambush will actually nullify the exhaust effect and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
You can get damage through. This can also work fine in any kind of Doom Worker shell, so on and so forth. It's technically just a good removal or combat support card at a reasonable cost.
Yeah, I just think it could afford to be a little bit pushed. Like we could get rid of the until end of turn, and I think that would also be fine. I just think it needs to differentiate itself a little bit more from Training Slime Mage. I do think it's a good card. What do you think, Empty?
Yeah, I really like this design, mostly because it's like a card that's good in action spam that like actually rewards you for having a board.
Yeah.
Unlike Slime Mage, where like it can be used defensively, this is all offense, which I like. So yeah, I mean, I'd be pretty happy if it got in.
Yeah. And it's doing good, so we could still see it. Okay, the Bizaare Bargainer is a 3-drop Spirit 3/3 Spectre from Walnut. But after you play a card, draw a card and put your oldest card on to the bottom of your deck. This is fun from Sunbird, who I believe is also a fairly new designer. I don't know if they have any cards in yet. And this beautiful art from Tahazar that I wanted to see in the game for a while. So this is really, really interesting because it does, and I know that Empty in particular will like this because this is like a choose windowless rummage effect. But it does have the slight disadvantage that your oldest card is also usually going to be where your bigger cards, your payoffs, maybe your finisher is. So I feel like this, because it's choose windowless, has kind of like a double-edged sword to it. And so I'm not really sure how we feel. I do like the whole Walnut, like this is a good contribution to Walnut in particular, and their kind of mechanical themes, but I'm a little bit unsure about this design. Empty, reassure me.
I want this to say discard instead of put it on the bottom so badly. Because it would be so cool in Spectres if
Yeah,
it discarded your oldest card.
that
but
is
it
actually a
doesn't.
good point.
And because of that, I don't think it has a home. Because there's not really any deck that is like going to be a big payoff for this unless like you're really needing to cycle through in order to find something specific.
Yeah.
But like even then, if you're running this in like a combo deck to try and filter for your combo, you just can't do it because if you're unlucky, this is going to be shuffling away your combo pieces too, depending on what order you draw them. So I don't really see a good place for it.
Yeah, I do agree that it probably should have been discard to actually fit in the package. It looks like it's designed for, quote unquote. Especially with the Spectre the Spectres series that Spikebird's been working on. Anhem, Elam, Halem.
Yeah. It would be amazing in Spectres if it said discard.
Yeah. What's the one I'm missing? Anyways, Grief, go.
It would be fucking overbearing when it actually said discard because of how many damn synergies it would have. I mean, yeah, sure, you could actually try to build it for Spectres and have a cute time, but we know what card deck this would actually support, and that would be undead like more bullshit like that.
Undead are gone though, except for Ma. But like,
so yeah, Legacy
except
undead,
except for more, except for Huntsman, which we had to update like twice over.
Okay, but Huntsman, that's not an undead card.
Except for cards that we probably are designing anyways, because grave feeding is such a cute mechanic that people want to build around. And just as you said, okay, this would be fine, funny for Spectres. We lost most of our discard pay of Spectres, and only the Spectres that are left want to be on the board and not discarded, which is also funny. This would be basically a zero-sum game in any kind of rebound shell. Should I continue listing off why this card shouldn't have discard?
But it would be awesome.
That's all the things that makes me want to run it though, Grief.
Yeah.
Okay, but without discard, what do you run it in?
The thing is,
where does it fit without the discard?
The thing is, it's an extremely unique looting effect that is A, skill-based, and B, rewards pretty unique deck building. And every kind of card that actually allows you to manipulate the bottom of your deck or design that actually plays off in the future, this would allow you to actually build off of these kinds of teams. And that's the best thing for rotation. Instead of looking for a specific shell to fit it or ham-twist it into, this is a pretty unique design seed, and that's something we should encourage.
Well, okay, so Grief, I do see what you're saying in terms of, you have to build the engine before you build the payoff, right? You got to get your fuel going before you can build the payoff. But the thing that I think Empty and I are getting at here is that currently the way this works, because of the design, which was a very clean way to do a choose windowless design, is a drawback. And a drawback is something that's going to draw people away from the card because we're
it's not a drawback.
The stranger.
Well, putting it on the bottom is because it's your oldest card specifically.
It's not a drawback. It's not a drawback, and unlike discard, which is actually a drawback, this has no fucked up synergies currently in the game and rotating out. So, yeah, I mean, sure, I see your point, but regardless of that, this card would be fucking broken and actually would need that card to be rebalanced, in cost, if you're upping the cost, or extremely lowering its stats, and at that point, it's fucking worthless.
Yeah. I mean, okay, I get what you're saying about it being overtuned in Spectres. It would be. But if it's not going to synergize with Spectres, it shouldn't be a Spectre from Walnut. The effect definitely isn't a drawback. Like if you design your deck correctly around this, where it's like a bunch of low-cost cards or something, you can control which card you play in your hand so that it's always hitting something that you don't care about.
Yeah.
It's like interesting, but
it's definitely interesting. I think we're all on board.
We can basically shoehorn it into discard and just play the same old that we have been basically playing since the last 3 years.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but for the voting populace, just looking at this card on the subreddit, it's kind of hard. You can see a possibility with it. What can we build around this? But the voting populace in the subreddit might not. I
As
would
a
love to see some
counterpoint.
bottom of the deck designs. That would be
As a
really interesting.
counterpoint, as a counterpoint to weird design payoffs and so on and so forth, I've designed Comedian, and even that got into the game, and that card has basically no home whatsoever because of how weirdly it functions.
Yeah.
And this is a way better Comedian.
Yeah.
I have some like weird deck idea where you give this to your opponent while you have Thought Suppressor in play.
So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, and I'd be interested to see where it would go, but I don't know how to get people on board with it. Well, it's actually not doing that bad. It's at like 9, so I have hopes for it. But I don't know. It's just interesting to see kind of the differing perspectives on it. Okay, another School of Archaea Pello project. Probably should have workshopped that name, but no, I'm just kidding. Multi-shot Spellslinger is a 2-drop mine, 2/3 human arcanist from Seal of Elementary. With when you play an action, deal 1 damage to the opponent. Very clean, very simple common. I really like that Mystic Fox is apparently doing like more art for the game now. I am 100% behind that. Mystic Fox is amazing. And this effect is very clean, I like where it's going. Grief, you want to talk about why you picked this card?
Instant slam into any kind of arcanist / human / action spam deck. Point over. It's just good.
Yeah. It's just a nice, clean, simple, common design. And how's it actually doing sitting on the right?
I think it's 16. Yeah.
And it's already in the game. No, just kidding.
I mean, technically, just from the artwork itself. And yeah, I know the meme. Oh yeah, it just got into the game because of the artwork. But voting on Reddit is massively.
Yeah, so we don't really know where it's sitting. I was just joking.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really do like this push. This is the side of it. I think this is. I immediately know what role this is supposed to play and whatnot, and I don't really know if there's too much to say about it because of that, except pretty. Empty, what do you think?
Yeah, Grief kind of already covered it. Good, like a good card in action spam, good card in Arcanist Tribal when that becomes a thing. I like that this has like a home right now, and then a potential future home when it gets more support.
Yeah,
Could be decent in Ashgurdy too to proc your passive.
Oh yeah. That's something we're talking about. This can really, this can proc your passive at like double speed if you run a couple pings. Oh yeah, because like Plasma Splash, Splash, and then you've already procced it actually, which is awesome. So yeah, really cute, cool, really cute design. I guess we're just kind of hyping up the Archaea Pello project because
let's just call it soap.
Soap. Yes, we're just hyping up the soap. Just being the soap hype man. Okay, Ghostly Goo is a 2-drop spirit 2/1 Spectre Ooze from Mortstall, Realm of the Dead Things, with entrance. Copy and ally units in Tomb. I'm a little confused about what that... Does it gain an ally units in Tomb, or does it force trigger an ally units in Tomb?
It gains.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it gains an ally units in Tomb. Okay. So apparently Realm of the Dead Things has been picking up some oozes recently. I've been seeing them flitting around the subreddits, getting incorporated into Mortstall, being more... It's like our Halloween realm, but it's just a little bit more high tech. Got all the spooky things going on. I really like this design. I like oozes. I like all the potential stuff this can do. And this is just this is one of those 2-drops that you ideally want to play after you've already gotten some stuff out. But this is a nice, just clean, solid design. Empty, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I think it's a really solid design too. I like that it's entrance, so if you play like a Grave Rave, when this comes back, you can pick up an ally's Entomb again.
Yeah, nice synergy.
Also with like more Mockery Ooze, it's sort of like it says Entomb, not Entombs plural, but I'm assuming it's going to pick up all of them anyway.
I assume as well.
The only thing this deck like actually needs now, if this gets in, is good Entombs to copy, because those are kind of few and far between post rotation.
Yeah. But yeah, I think this could build up something nice as just a Mortar Mockery Ooze combo. And I like the whole icky, creepy, like Entomb Ooze.
Yeah.
So on the Spectre side, I know they've been doing like Spectre Oozes. Do anything in the Spectre package already have a good Entomb this wants to copy?
Not really.
Not really? Okay, so that's just there for consistency and flavor and good stuff.
I mean,
Grief, what do you think of this design?
Entombs are basically spirits / strange stick altogether, so why not? There was a lot of discussion of how strong this card actually could be and how scary of a design it is. And at the end of the day, you cannot play this card turn 2, really.
Yeah.
Since most, maybe all 1-drop / 0-drop units that you could actually copy the Entombs from don't really have any kind of good Entombs to begin with. So this is just a tech card that you will probably play, or a combo card that you'll play on turn 5 to 6, just to capitalize on the effect or specific synergies by mass entombing cards via Grave Rave, as MT already mentioned. It's cute, but it will be stuck on hand for the most part of the game. So you really have to have a good. We basically have to have a good deck to be built around to run this card, since at the end of the day, it will be a dead draw in most cases.
Yeah, I do think in maybe in a single player, slower environment, this does have one particular really good synergy, and that is with Shinbone Jouster.
Yes,
yeah.
I was going to bring that up.
Being able to throw down Shinbone Jouster, it dies, it comes back, the entrance re-triggers, it will never lose Shinbone's Entomb. So in a balloon deck in single player, this lets you establish a very consistent threat.
Yeah, the thing is, for the most part, probably you will kill Shinbone first, since that's the case of that deck. Yeah, sure, you will have the entrance ability online, but the moment you can actually do any kind of mass kill effect, like Bolt Wipes with the, what's the -3/-3 effect, this will kill Shinbone Jouster as well, and it will lose the Entomb effect, so therefore this will just enter as a 2/1.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is about it just entering again is like that's still quite solid, because it means you can get this out of your hand turn 2, and then if you've developed other Entombs by then, you can just copy those. You don't need to rely on the Shinbone all game.
Well, because Shinbone's not gonna be online turn 1. Turn 2, you just plop this down before you use the Duelist.
And so Shinbone does rotate out.
Well, yeah, that's why I said in single player, because it's both.
Standard.
It'll both stick around, and it's a slower environment where those kind of things matter. This is a pretty consistent pressure unit, I think, for Balloon.
It would be nice if there was like a Shinbone quality level Entomb for this to copy, so that you could actually play a turn 2.
Yeah, we might need like a soft reprint or something similar to fill that role, actually. Maybe not in Undead, maybe move it into one of these tribes that are getting more attention in 2021.
Yeah. I can't imagine people would be too happy about a Shinbone pseudo reprint.
Yeah. Okay, now we're moving on to Empty's picks from the active submissions. With Boulder Warrior. Boulder Warrior is a 3-drop strength 6/3 Lizabo from Unguia with overrun and summon your opponent creates Steal the Rock. Steal the Rock is exhaust a unit. If it's a Boulder Warrior, return this to hand. So this is a mashup, or this is actually a kind of an older design. This is Bargaining Buccaneer from Drowlogs. Just a little different, maybe a little bit easier to work with, and no credit on the token art for some reason. Why did you pick this, Empty? Tell me a story.
Because I love Bargaining Buccaneer, and
Oh,
this is that.
yeah.
But a little bit better. Bargaining Buccaneer was really weak. I think this is okay. And it like encourages you to run this sort of go wide strategy. Because like Steal the Rock, if your opponent ends up removing this, you really don't want to have just a few big units, because then they can exhaust one of them, and you basically gave them that for free.
Mm-hmm.
I just really like this sort of like taxing design where it's like you gotta choose whether or not you want to pay 2 mana or
The
get
other
attack
thing
with
that
the
this
6/3
does
overrun.
is the Lizabo have been developing this whole anti-action synergy.
Yeah.
Like that design we saw earlier with the Haruspex. So this gives you what you need. This is the Dralog design in Lizabo that gives them some junk in hand. And
it would be funny if Lizabo like progressed to being similar to Dralogs, which I'm fully on board with because I love Dralogs.
I mean, they could. We have Strong Arm, I guess, which will deal damage to your opponent when they play a card. When they play an action, you have not Chastity, but the other Red Angel card that increases the cost of cards that are below 3 to 3. So Steel Rock would be a 3-cost card at that point. Overall, I really like the design. Problem is, I think it needs 1 more HP or be a 5/4, since 3 HP is a really bad stat line for a unit that you want to basically only be stealth rocked. And in this case, basically it can be Firebolt, and oh yeah, now I have a one-time exhaust for my opponent.
Yeah, that's kind of the big issue with it, is that if your opponent just plays a damage removal spell, you're really in a bad spot.
Yeah. But it is cute, and I do like how it reinforces this possible new direction for the Lizabo. And I think it's super clever, and I'd be interested in seeing more of the space developed. Space developed in the the designer's space turtle. Okay, so now let's talk about the tragedy of the Corn Maze. No, Corn Maze is
I'm really happy that it's not a Karfian design.
But my Corn Maze. Anyways, Corn Maze is a 3-drop spirit 0/4 nightmare plant plays from Degenesis of all places. With it's a token. They messed up. Can attack, and ally units have active pay 1 to have a player mill equal to this card's HP. So this is Empty. Maybe you can help me out here. Oh, Thanax got a deception from Magic.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Basically, it makes you pay a little bit, which Thanax didn't. But it's also not Thanax in the whole sense of being, a god. So I'm personally sad because this would be really great to have as card hand, because we're all about Americana, and this is a classic American thing, the Corn Maze. But besides that, let's evaluate it on its own merits. We're building up Mill. Which is potentially really cool because Mill is losing like everything, right?
Yeah. It is not in a good place.
Post-rotation, there's no Mill cards. And the way this works, it props up self-Mill, it props up enemy Mill, and it props up DAT because it cares about HP. High HP matters. And so for that reason, I think this is really, really interesting. I have, of course, the minor quibble with it, but that's just me having my minor quibbles. I do really like the art. It does have that very spooky, evocative feeling. And, of course, it does reference John Mill, which is not even in the game yet, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. So, Grief, I'll let you talk about this first as a close friend of Lunatic behind the Genesis and all that.
First of all, points why this doesn't make sense in Karfian. Since when had Karfian any kind of mill synergies? Since when did Karfian actually care about the HP unit of enemy milling?
It's not a mechanical realm!
And why are you trying to steal more multiple mechanical designs that fit other realms? Just because of artwork. And that's why I don't like Karfian.
Anyways.
Okay, but back to the code. This fits multiple places due to the fact that it's evoking more mill or enemy mill in the future post-rotation, but it already finds a home in plants matters because plants usually have high HP values or can be actually pushed to have those.
And places matters. Yeah.
And places matters. Yeah. Let's put that point aside. On the other hand, this could at least have 1 more HP, but I know why it doesn't. But at that point, it could actually cost 2, since, let's face it, it's a can't attack place with 0/4 as a stat line, which is horrendous. Especially since it's an active ability on your units that costs you 1 mana.
Yeah. I do think the pay 1 is maybe a little harsh, because you already have to exhaust the units, which is giving up your board presence. I don't know how popular that idea would be, but I don't think, I think exhausting a unit is probably enough, especially a high HP unit that could have been a good blocker. In Magic, Feign Axe, it doesn't matter because you could just do it at the end of their turn, and no matter what, you get the benefit out of it.
I mean,
but
sure.
in the way Collective's turns are structured, that's a little bad.
I mean, sure. I think the idea was probably how much does first aid give? 6.
Yeah.
So you play this turn 3, turn 4. You play a first aid on this card. You do fast activate its own ability, mill your opponent by 10.
Yeah.
So
So yeah, I
case,
guess
it
because of the
makes
HP
sense.
gaining effects that exist in this game. I do know Cannibals did say this was an older design. I know when I was crying for him and begging for him to put this in Carthan.
Please no. Please no. Listen, Cannibals. The Genesis was a good idea because it actually makes sense. Also, it's a nightmare. It will probably synergize in Legacy with Nightmare Engine and any kind of cards that care about nightmares to begin with.
Anyways, MP, what do you think of this design?
I love this design. I'm with Grief though. I think it's a bit undertuned. But like the idea of having like a mill deck that's like a lot more interactive for your opponent, or like they can lower the health of their units or push for more damage in order to make exhausting your units more of a cost. I think that's a really good idea. I just think they need to buff the card a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. So we will see. Now let's talk about something that is not doing too hot on the subreddit in the form of Dormant Growth. Is a 9-drop spirit action from Intera with at the start of next turn, your Planescape +4/+4. I still feel this is in a weird spot cost-wise. I was with Thrifty when he was labbing it. I do love the art from Rock Angel here, and I just do want to... I know he's like an old player that apparently still had some art sitting around or something like that. I haven't actually seen a Rock Angel around, but man, it's pretty, and I feel like it has a use. I feel like this still has some like tuning issues. Grief, what do you think?
This is like 5 mana too costly.
Yeah.
Maybe 4 if you say, oh yeah, it's a go white plan matters strategy, but yeah, it's a delay anthem effect. Yeah, it's a strong anthem effect. But why the fuck does it cost as much as an atom bomb or neutron bomb?
Yeah, at like 9, I feel like you could be getting like at 9, supposing you aren't dead to aggro, you could be like almost all the way to Dat's final ability. His landworm. I don't know. I feel like is the cost is the only issue, right? The start of the next turn was to reinforce the dormant idea. I talked to Thrifty about that. I feel it's a little weird, but whatever. And I do think 5 would be the number.
I like the game. I like the game.
Because it's just telegraphed. So I don't know. Grief, what did you want to say?
I liked gameplay and implications for it because, as you said, it's telegraphed. But on the other hand, plants aren't the hardest to interact with. And sure, even if you go wide in an aggressive token strategy with stuff like the little gardener or what it's called back in Legacy. Why?
Yeah.
It's the best example of a pay mana, do nothing for the turn.
Yeah. Empty. Tell us what you think about the card and then show us the cat.
Well, I'm gonna have to show you the cat first because she is being a pain and keeps coming up onto my desk.
Okay.
But yeah, so I like the idea behind this card, but I really agree with you. It is way too overcosted. The issue is like a lot of the time you're gonna be spending 9 mana to play this. Your opponent's just gonna like play a board clear, and you've just wasted your turn doing nothing. You've basically spent 9 mana for the privilege of discarding a card. But the idea of like using this card as a way to punish your opponent for like tapping out, and suddenly all your like little plants that didn't matter before are suddenly like these huge threats, and now your opponent can't remove them anymore. I think that's a really good idea. This card just needs to be retooled so it's not this overcosted.
Yeah. Okay. And last but not least, the Worldbreak Whelp, which is a super cute art, by the way, from JTAD. Worldbreak Whelp is a 2-drop strength 2/1 dragon from nowhere in particular. Interesting. Flying and summon, create a Worldbreak Worm on top your deck. Worldbreak Worm is a 3-drop neutral 4/4 dragon with flying. Cool. Top of deck matters stuff with dragons. This guarantees you have a dragon on top.
Yes.
It's obviously a nice cheap flyer, which dragons you want to have. A lot of the early dragons were in the late game, and this is pushing some stuff toward the early and the mid game. I love this design. I think this is, first of all, super cute and really, really interesting and well executed. Empty, what do you think of this design?
I completely agree with you, Stranger. I think this is a really well-designed card, and I think it's like exactly what dragons needed, because they really struggle with early game. So having like this 2-drop that guarantees you a 3-drop in your curve, and then later in the game it guarantees you have a dragon on top of your deck for the synergies.
Yeah,
So I think it's a perfectly solid design for that reason.
Yeah. What do you think, Grief?
Not to be a dick about it, but BGG. This is how you design pretty competent-ish Tyrant Dragon support.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not Eye of the Tyrant. Javin is middling, and Call of the Dragons falls on the same category of Javin, that, yeah, it's middling. But yeah, this, for the first time, is a dragon that actually supports this Top of the Dragon Matters archetype. It's even a good Herald target, and Herald is one of the worst keyword mechanics we have in the game.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to actually set up in a worthwhile matter. Overall, it's just another card in JTAD's current one of doing really competent card design.
Yeah, I think it's really this stuff, just the thing that a lot of the early dragons had problems with was they were trying to be exciting over at the top of the curve. The trick is to be exciting all throughout the curve. There are ways to make exciting baby dragons and cute baby dragons. There are ways to make interesting middle of the game choices, and that's how you fill out an archetype. And this really just draws it all together. And like you said, this even helps Herald. This can help Flyers. If we ever see some more, I mean, Penumbra's leaving, but we can still eventually get a decent Flyers archetype going. It managed to get me excited about a 2-drop, and that's really what archetype should be able to do. So yeah, I think that was all for this week. Let me double check real quick. and stop the share. So this was a fun week and an interesting week, and we had some spirited discussion this time, which I really like to see on the show. That was a nice little change of pace. Thank you, Grief, as always, for joining us.
You're welcome. I always like to be here. Next Sunday, I'm not there though.
Oh, yes, guys. We will be doing something Sunday, but I have no idea how many of us are showing up. Grief is not. I will. Empty, what about you?
I'll probably be there.
Okay, so it's me and Empty and maybe a guest. We will see. I still have no idea. And thank you, Empty, for being here for me. And this weekend next, where we can talk bad about Grief. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. Remind me why I'm doing this, and keep playing collective and keep voting on cards. Bye.